Nerve Center of Bombay to the Nerve Center of Delhi. Shobhana Bhartia joins in to talk about what we expect to hear or see from the political session. Shobhana, apologies first. We had a long drawn conversation with the Deputy Governor, so we spilt over in time. But there is a concern, Shobhana, on what the monsoon session may actually throw up in terms of, bills getting cleared or work actually getting done. What is your sense of how the monsoon session will pan out?
After the last couple of weeks and all that we've seen playing out, there are concerns whether the monsoon session is going to go on without too many disruptions. The main opposition seems to feel that they've got the government on a weak foot, and the concern is that they may try and use the monsoon session to once again disrupt the House, to bring to the fore certain issues that they feel are actually going to show the government in a weaker light, and therefore we may or may not see too much legislation happening. In any case, I think the first couple of weeks is definitely going to go with the session being quite stormy from what one hears from all the various opposition parties. But the government has planned some significant bills in this coming session, so I can only hope that we actually see the transaction of some serious business, because many important bills have been held up and they've been promised during the monsoon session.
Morning, Shobhana. But even if the session is not entirely scuttled like the last one and it gets underway, how compliant would the BJP or the NDA be to the passage of some of these contentious bills that you spoke about?
Last session strangely wasn't as bad as the one preceding it. In fact, we did see quite a lot of business transacted towards the end. I see the BJP, broadly I think the views of the opposition party are generally known before the bill is even introduced, and many sensitive bills are not introduced only because the government knows that they haven't been able to build a consensus around them. So I think the point at which the bill is actually going to be introduced is going to be fairly close to when they feel they have got a consensus. So for instance, whether it's the GST, they've yet to evolve a consensus, and therefore you see that in cold storage. Similarly, some other bills have gone to the standing committee and they are yet to come back to the parliament, and will come at a stage when a certain amount of consensus has emerged over them. You've got the mining regulatory bill which is likely to come up. Once again, there are reservations from the private sector, from the planning commission, and I think the bills will only be introduced once a lot of these differences have been sort of streamlined or they've been sorted out. We were hoping that the Lokpal bill and the food security bill both get introduced in this session, and there seems to be a larger consensus around these two bills, with minor issues perhaps which might have to get tweaked because of the various opposition parties, but they don't seem to be having any serious obstacle at this point. But then again, we get back to the question of whether the House will function, whether these bills would indeed get introduced and then debated and passed. But there seems to be a greater consensus, I think, around the food security bill and bills like the Lokpal, as opposed to some of the bills pertaining to the financial sector.
The Prime Minister had spoken about some serious cabinet changes a while back. We have not heard too much along those lines. Do you think that's likely or possible before the monsoon session kicks off?
It seems that it should happen. The Prime Minister, I think on his recent foreign trip also indicated that once he gets back, he needs to apply his mind. There are glaring vacancies post-Rajya. There are people holding dual charges, and I think the government really needs to send a signal that it means business by revamping the cabinet if it wants to also make people perceive that it's serious about weeding out corruption. The Prime Minister had said that he would seriously apply his mind and make some more major changes when he underwent the last exercise, which was a very peripheral exercise. One was expecting something to happen much before the session starts. You're looking at less than 3-4 weeks now, but I do hope that there are some changes in the next couple of weeks.
The one key decision financial markets were waiting for, Shobhana, was related to oil and gas and whether anything could be done over there in terms of deregulating the sector. Even if they don't move on that, do you expect the government to put out some concrete direct subsidy plan, something they've talked about, where it goes, for kerosene, LPG goes to the direct end user?
I think it's a politically sensitive subject, and they have received a bit of flack for the last few moves. I personally don't see that happening so soon, though they are moving in that direction. But I don't see that mechanism being put into place with the government confronting many other challenges on other fronts. You see, each time they actually want to move forward on what they consider their core agenda, there are many other extraneous issues which are sort of coming in the way and completely derailing the focus that the government needs to bring in to actually take to culmination many of these initiatives that they've spoken about. And so a lot of these measures I personally feel are being kept on the sidelines because they are so busy firefighting and confronting some of these other extraneous issues which have come up now.
Land acquisition at this point is the most politically sensitive, of course, Shobhana, and it has ramifications for the industry at large. Any consensus that you sense over there between opposition and government? Do you think there will be headway on that bill?
I think from what one hears that there possibly might be some headway on that bill. Mamata Banerjee had a huge amount of resistance and reluctance, and now with her not being in the Council of Ministers, I think they'll possibly move a little on that. I think she was also resisting any changes because of the forthcoming Bengal elections. With those out of the way, I think that issue needs to be would not be a problem as far as the Council of Ministers is concerned. I broadly see them having a lot more convergence on the land acquisition bill, with the BJP also being in tandem with some of the measures that the government is proposing. So I hope that that bill does see some move forward in the coming weeks.
One counter view is that, or maybe the hopeful view is that now that the NDA has the UPA in a sort of a corner, it may not want to be seen as a party which is not proactive or not pro-reform or pro-business, and may actually play along with the government in passing some of these key economic bills. Do you think that's just being wishful, or it could work out that way?
I don't think it's being wishful, and the BJP would not like to be seen as a party which is anti-development or not very progressive. But they've always had this complaint that they don't have a proper line of communication with the government. When you talk to any senior BJP leader, they always say nobody talks to us. There isn't an institutional mechanism whereby the BJP is proactively taken into confidence and a lot of the bills are discussed. One, they are using this to very often try to corner the government and show them in poor light. The second factor is that they feel that the government at this point is going through, perhaps in terms of its public perception and image, the maximum turmoil that one has seen in its existence in the last 2 years. They definitely want to exploit this situation before they sort of come in and give in and allow the government to pass a few bills which they may be supporting, but it's just politically and strategically for them, it's an important time to try and show how vulnerable the government is, that the government is in disarray, and the BJP is trying to exploit the situation. So they will come around. I don't think they'll seriously try and create obstacles for any bill that they perceive as being pro-development, but the timing is really the critical issue, and when they allow that. As I said a little earlier, that I think the first few weeks are going to go in just a lot of ruckus, in just a lot of adjournments, in just the BJP and the other parties stalling the house. I don't see us getting down to serious business for the first couple of weeks at least. I think they'll definitely try and exploit the situation.
Many thanks, Shobhana, for joining in. A pleasure talking to you as always. Thanks for taking time out today. That's the chairperson of the Hindustan Times, taking us through what her expectations are from the monsoon session of Parliament.